Hi, Luke Smith with Waves, and we're going to show the eMotion mixer, which is the way that you would control all of the new DigiGrid solutions. Here we are. So this is our first page I like to look at. It's called the All Channels page. And what we have here is basically every single audio, auxiliary, group, matrices, and DCA track available. So everything right here on one screen. Now, the maxed out configuration for eMotion is 64 stereo tracks, 8 groups, 16 auxes, 8 matrices. So I'll note that this is the live sound version of eMotion. And there will also be a separate studio version coming later on when this is released around Q2. If you want to actually start mixing, then you would start using these tabs. And we have 16 channel banks. I can just use a fader to turn it up and down very easily there. And this is how I get through the channel strip. I have the input selected there, so I have an iOS, iOX, or IOC. I would have my mic pre-control right here. Going to Dynamics and EQ, we also created a couple of brand new plugins called the D5 and the Q4 specifically for eMotion, so that even if you don't have any Waves plugin authorizations, you have a fully loaded channel strip on every track. The way to get to these plugins is very simple. You just single press any track and it automatically pulls it up for you. Right now I have our Kramer Pi compressor up, which is one of our very, very popular compressors. But let's take a look at the new plugins that are inside of eMotion. We have the D5, which is a 5-tool dynamics plugin. It has a gate expander, a leveler, a de-esser, a compressor, and a limiter. And we like this one because all of the 5 of those tools are running in parallel. So they're not ganged together in a signal path. They kick in when they need to. We have the Q4, which is a really nice 4-band equalizer, very simple to use. It's definitely a new algorithm for us, and it's a great transparent utility. Now, if you want to get to any of your favorite Waves plugins, we can go right from here. Select whatever we need, and then we have it. We can control it right from here, and we actually even have a slider capability. So if I select this, whatever parameter I select, I then have a slider for it down there. So very, very nice. Now, moving on here, the setup section, this is where you actually manage all of your IOs and manage all of your devices, and even if you want, you can connect a Huey controller to this software. If you notice here, I have 2 banks of IOs, so like I said earlier, any given time you can have access to 64 stereo tracks, but since we have 2 banks, you can actually route up to 256 inputs through this software. Now, if you also notice, I have between Bank A and Bank B the ability to connect up to 16 of our DigiGrid devices. So that's a lot of I/O if you need it, all over Ethernet. Now, going to the patch page, depending upon what types of I/O devices you have connected, this will automatically update and recognize those physical inputs and outputs that you have. So it's very, very simple, and we like it because it's easy to use. If I go back over to the overview and we take a look at, say, the auxes, we have a nice feature that if I select the auxes, I automatically get my flip to faders for that aux in, right? And if I want to get out of that, just select it one time and I'm back to the output faders. Right? So it's a very, very powerful, fully functional mixer, and it's how you manage all the DigiGrid solutions. Thank you so much. Alright, so we also have lots of new plugins to show you guys. The first 2 I'm going to show you are specifically for our live sound users, but they can also obviously be used in the studio if you want. We're looking right now at the GEQ. There's 2 components to the GEQ, both the classic and the modern. And the classic is giving you traditional filter types, traditional graphic EQ filter types. There's 30 bands here available, and then we have an extra floating band for that problem frequency you might need to boost or cut after you've dialed in your main EQ curve. There's also a really great feature called Draw, where I just select this fader really fast, and I can move the mouse up and down to really, really quickly get the setting that I want. This is the left channel, this is the right channel. They can be linked or unlinked. And then we also have a really nice spectrum analyzer here. The left channel is in yellow and the right channel is in blue. Now, if we pull up the modern, right? The main difference between the modern and the classic is the modern employs Mesa style filters as opposed to the traditional bell filter. So it has a much more phase coherency between each band as you're boosting or cutting. And it's, as far as the GUI is concerned, it's almost identical. Same thing, link or unlink, left channel here, right channel here, and here's a floating frequency band. So these are really great tools for live sound, studio, whatever you need it for. We also have the IR Live, which is taking our IR convolution reverb technology and simplifying it dramatically. At the same time is also actually lowering the latency and improving the sound quality. So we have only a few controls here: pre-delay, reverb time, dry wet mix, and an output. We have a nice shelf EQ, 2 bands, so you're able to get out those problem frequencies. And we have lots of great presets here. So you have many options. The other thing, the reason we're calling it IR Live, in addition to being lower latency, is the smoothing of the changing of the parameters and also changing the patches that we've done so that you don't get any sort of audio chatter, you don't get any audio dropouts. You can really change stuff on the fly with this one. So it's a great new reverb and welcome in our new bundles there. Now, we also have a new signature series coming out, and that was done in combination with Manny Marroquin, who's a very popular mixer who's done everybody. And he is absolute genius when it comes to mixing, and he let us in on a lot of his secrets that he does and allowed us to create these plugins based on his workflow. So let's take a look at those. The first one is the Manny EQ. And the Manny EQ has the ability to boost and cut frequencies, but it also has a really special aspect to it. Meaning that Manny really likes certain pieces of hardware dependent on what frequency he wants to boost or cut. So if he's boosting or cutting 50 hertz, he's using a very special hardware EQ to do that. But if he's boosting 110 hertz, he's using a completely different hardware EQ to do that. So every frequency select I have is right here. And every time I select a frequency, I get a different hardware model. Right? So we even have all the way up to 25K here. It's a very versatile EQ. The next is Manny M Tone Shaper. Now, much the same way that he likes to EQ using different pieces of hardware for their tonal qualities in that frequency range, he also likes to parallel process in certain frequencies range in a multi-band fashion using specific types of hardware. Right? So what we have here is called a tone shaper because it's not just parallel compression or parallel EQ, it's doing much more than that. So here we have the source fader, we're able to turn up the unprocessed signal, and here we're able to, in a multi-band fashion, turn up the parallel processing. So you just turn the faders up and it sounds better. Very easy to use and employing Manny's multi-band signal pass for parallel processing. So very cool plugin. Now, the next one is a reverb. So not only do we have the IR Live, but we're also coming out very soon with this Manny Reverb, which is modeled after his favorite hardware piece. It has a hall, it has a room, chamber, plate, space, and ambience. It has 3 different sizes. We have a dry wet slider here, the time adjustment here, pre-delay here, a nice 3-band EQ, and we even have a compressor here. The compressor allows you to, another interesting thing about the way that Manny mixes is sometimes if he feels that his reverb is taking up too much space in his stereo image, he'll actually compress the reverb return to put it exactly where he wants to in the mix. So that's why we added the compressor knob there. We also have a phaser and a distortion knob, so if you really want to dirty up the reverb return and make it sound even cooler, you have these extra effects to do that. The last one we have available today is the Manny Marroquin delay. The delay has independent controls for the left and the right channel. independent feedback controls for both those channels. It has the ability to sync to the host or not. It has the ability to be linked or not. We have a high-pass filter and a low-pass filter that can be inverse linked if you need to, or not. And much the same way that he likes to dial in some other effects sometimes with his reverb, he also likes to do the same thing with his delay. So we actually added a reverb inside of the plugin, right? In addition to the delay, we added a distortion module, we added a doubler, and we added a phaser. So it's not really just a delay, it's actually 5 effects in one. And there are 2 other plugins that will be available but when this is released, hopefully within a month. And they're going to be called the Triple D, which is a de-esser, a de-boxer, and a de-harsher. And then there'll also be a distortion module that employs lots of different types of distortion that Manny likes to use. So it'll be 6 plugins in all, and another great addition to our artist signature line. Thanks a lot. Yep. Cool. Thank you so much.